ahead, Don.
Okay, well, welcome everybody to the call tonight, and this is our Wednesday webinar featuring club coaching. What the presentation you'll see today is a presentation that Scott Hollahan put together based on a high performance leadership program that he wanted to do from his year last year as the assistant club growth director, and specifically he led the club coaching effort last year. We've taken a lot of his lessons learned and developed a strategy, and so I'll be happy to give you some updates on that from where we are right now as well. At any time, if you have any questions or if you want to make a recommendation or suggestion yourself, feel free to go ahead and interject at any time, and hopefully we can answer your question. Okay, next slide, Francisco.
Oops.
We're getting there here. Okay, so here's our agenda. What I want to cover here is recruiting people to join our cause. And I'll just talk briefly about this here. We really need more people to help some of the struggling clubs within the district. I know a lot of times we put the word out, we ask people for help, and a lot of times I think people think that they either don't have enough time or they don't have the right expertise to go ahead and be a club coach. And really what we're trying to do is dispel that myth that you have to have some special qualities or some special advanced techniques. Really, as a club coach, you're just trying to help out a club who wants to continue, but are just needing some fresh ideas and some fresh perspectives a lot of times. I'll talk a little bit about creating an action strategy, developing a plan for this project, and some of the goals, some of the roles and timetables associated, and then we'll talk about working the plan a little bit as well. Okay, so next slide, Francisco. So first, recruiting people. So when we look at all the stakeholders to be to have a very successful club coaching program, you have the club growth director and the assistant. So that's me as the club growth director, and David Hill is my assistant club growth director. And we're definitely on board, and we like to do as much as we can to support. Unfortunately, we're only two people, and we're also responsible for creating all the new clubs as well as helping other existing clubs, not just the struggling clubs, add members to their clubs. And for those of you who have been on some of the distribution lists of some of the incentives we put out as well, there's a lot of efforts we're doing to try to build up membership within the clubs, and specifically to be able to help some of the struggling clubs. Personally, we just don't have the time to go ahead and do that. So with the philosophy or more hands make light work, it's the perspective of trying to build additional people who can help us. A lot of times you have the club presidents or officers who are part of the club that's struggling. Sometimes they're resistors. They think that they don't need help, but really the proof is in the numbers. If you're at 12 members or less, the theory at least is that you're struggling from at least a membership perspective, and what we're trying to do is help that club be successful. And I got to tell you, a lot of times the club presidents or officers are our biggest proponents for a club coach. Sometimes when we contact them, if they're willing to be open to having a club coach, they're more than eager to have that. And again, with the concept of many hands make light work. Also, we have a lot of need for those potential club coaches. And really what we've been doing is targeting people who have their competent communicator or an advanced leader bronze. And competent leaders is another attribute. But really, it's hard to find those people who want to take their leadership to that next level and be a club coach. So really what we're doing is trying to make any effort possible, opening any doors to try to get additional potential club coaches in the mix so that we can have that potential audience to help these struggling clubs. Our DTMs in our district, and we have a couple hundred actually total DTMs. we are using them as the go-getters for consulting. We also are asking them if they are not necessarily fully tied up in 5 different clubs right now, if they would be willing to still support as a coach. But frankly, we're trying to find people who need that coaching credit towards their distinguished Toastmaster. So we're trying to not target only DTM because they've already had that credit to be able to get to their DTM. We really want the people who need their DTM. And then with the area directors, the division directors, and their assistants, we really need their help. And we've put out expectation very early at the earliest district executive council meetings. We've requested their help. Some have been more involved than others, and our expectation is this is going to make you successful if you are able to go ahead and identify your own clubs within your area or within your division. It's in their vested interest as well as our vested interest to make sure we identify a club coach early so that that struggling club can get as much help as possible. And then within that specific area, we also have what's called a Delta team, which is within each division, we've sent out a team of people to pick out areas where they need assistance from the perspective of club culture, how to improve club culture, how to do open houses, how to do membership drives. And each of the geographic areas have either had a Delta visit or should be getting a Delta team visit here in the future. So at this point, I'll pause. Billy, did you have any questions?
I had a comment.
Sure.
I'm thinking that with Pathways, do you know if the effective coaching program at all encourages you to be a club coach? Is it built into that program?
Yes. What we were told is under Pathways, to get your DTM, you still need to be either a club coach, club mentor, or club sponsor. So that requirement doesn't go away with Pathways. And the other thing that it would be a little different, instead of targeting people who are at the CC or ALB, really what we'd be looking for are people within a level 2 or 3 of the pass. That's who we would target potentially to be able to get that club coach aspect. Because again, they still need that for their credit to be a DTM down the road. So if that answers your question, yes, within Pathways, having this credit is still a requirement.
Okay. Well, I am VPE at 2 of my clubs and very involved in trying to focus and motivate people. Plus, being a Pathways guide, I'm pushing them that direction. But I see the mentorship program that Pathways has, since we all taste it, and some people will jump into it, and we want to encourage them to do it. I would think that if the people that want to be mentors, we were to encourage that the next step from being a mentor is to move on to be a club coach, that just expands those skills, that's a great avenue, a good fish pond to go to get our up and coming new coaches.
I like that because I believe in the level 2 of each of the different paths, there is a mentoring piece of it. I believe yes. I was told it's either level 2 or level 3.
It's level 2.
So that is a natural progression. I like that. Once you're a mentor for an individual, grow into being a club coach for a club. I like that concept. Yeah, that's really good. And I'll bring that up with Kathy Donovan to talk about from the training perspective. Maybe we can even do some of our trainings coming up in June, July to focus on that. I like that concept.
Okay.
Hey, did somebody else just join the call also, by the way?
Hey, Don, it's Scott Holohan. Sorry I'm a little bit late here.
Oh, hey, Scott.
I'm on the phone only. I'm not on my PC yet, but wanted to at least join via phone.
So I'm glad that you joined, and I've been talking about you, so I don't know if your ear's been burning here.
No, I came in just before Billy asked her question. So.
Okay, great. Okay, So the next thing, let's go to the next slide, and Scott, obviously jump in at any point since you did the
Sure.
research behind. But we'll talk now about creating the action strategy here. And so one of the things that Scott, I know you put together is leveraging each division separately. And the fact that we talked about earlier, the club growth director and the club growth assistant cannot be solely in charge of recruiting coaches and making the club coach marriage across the entire district. We really need that help from everybody to identify people and also put it together. Now, it is true that my role as club growth director is I'm solely responsible for making the assignment to Toastmasters, but the groundwork can and should be done way ahead of time before I make that final announcement. Typically, what we say is if an area, a division director, if any of the club presidents or vice presidents of education in any of the clubs, if they notice a club or if they have a member who would be a great club coach, if they can look in the website, identify clubs that potentially could need club coaches, and mirror them up. What we recommend is a club coach first visit a club and talk to the club leadership about volunteering to be a club coach. If both the potential club coach and the club themselves think it's a good match, they're both willing to have that partnership. And then all I need is a confirmation that both the club coach and the club is willing to have this occur. And then I notify Toastmasters International to make the formal assignment on that. But really, what I like to do is leverage the division and area directors to help with that, but also to continue the follow up and make sure that that communication continues. Scott, do you want to add anything to that point of it?
No, I think you hit it on the head. I think it's really important for the area directors and the division directors to have those tools to not only understand the clubs that are eligible in their respective area or division, but also to, like you said, Don, to identify those people who, aspire or could do a great job with helping coach a club. So that's great. I'm glad that you hit those 2 points.
Okay, thanks. And then a couple other opportunities. We list on the slide here the DTM2 program. And Billy, I don't know, have you heard of that? I don't know if this is a new term for you.
Where we're trying to get our DTM in 2 years, the next 2 years, or is it something else?
Well, it's actually a special program. We have a coordinator, her name's Lulu Townsell, where she's actually adding people to a list called the DTM2 list. It's also nicknamed the Ditto list. And what that is it's a list of people who require various roles or levels to be able to get their DTM within the next 2 years. Because, as a pathways leader, Billy, you know that once the final district rolls out in pathways, which is scheduled to be, what we're hearing is June of this year now, is that 2 years from that is the last time that you can still use the current, or I shouldn't say current anymore, the former education program. So if somebody just needs a club coach or a club mentor, club sponsor credit, if they just need a HPL project to work on, if they just need to have their year as an area director or a division director, etc., then what we've done is we've added them to a list, and then we use that list to identify potential leaders to lead a project. I'll give you an example. I have this list now that Lulu has created and coordinated within each different parts of our district for potential club coaches. If somebody says that they need a club coach, club mentor, club sponsor, I'll contact that person first to say, I'm going to give you the first opportunity to be a club coach because we know you're working towards your DTM2. So what we've been finding is a lot of people want to get their DTM, but they haven't necessarily added their name to this DTM2 roster, and so they're not at the top of the list for us. We'll also use that for identifying potential area directors next year, as well as if there's a special project such as a TLI or an area division contest that will be occurring, and that person could use an HBL to get credit for that. We won't necessarily know about that person wanting to do that unless they're on this DTM and 2 list. So we're trying to target people who would be wanting to get their DTM in 2 years and using this list to go ahead and get that. So, Billy, if you haven't seen that, I know you're a great contact for your area. I'd love to get you that request and see if you can pass it out to any of the clubs or any of the other fellow leaders in your area to get added to that list.
Yeah, I wasn't quite aware. I myself was on that list originally. Once Pathways rolled out, I said, forget it, I'm doing Pathways. But I do have like one member in one of, because I'm a member in both clubs down here. One of my members only needs club sponsorship. And she said, it'll never happen. She said, I've got to do it in the next 2 years. So I've been working towards trying to make it happen. I didn't know that it could happen. Can it happen outside of Charleston?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
See, I thought that's part of what we were doing at the open house. I told her, be sure and be there. I know there's some corporate clubs want to form out of this. And the hope was, to get her through her challenge so she could get, she's so mad that Pathways is going to cheat her and she's never going to get her DTM.
Yeah, let me just take a break here and just ask, what's her name? And then I'll be on the lookout.
Julia Hinkle. She's our secretary.
Yeah. Now, I recognize the name. Was she an area director before, I think?
Probably. I mean, I've only been in a year. She's been in a long time. But she was going to quit as soon as Pathways came. She said, forget it. She said, I was one thing away from my DTM, and I'll never be able to do that because I have to sponsor a club, and we can't get a club going down here.
And do you know what geographical area she's in as far as what major metropolitan area? Or?
Well, she's between Huntington and Charleston.
Between Huntington and Charleston. Okay. Yeah. So I'll tell you what.
2 more years. There's still 2 more years.
There's 2 more years. And I have 3.
Contact yourself and reach out to her and let her know.
Okay.
We're definitely with her today. Because it's not just the other thing. It's not just sponsor. It's coaching and mentoring. All 3 will count for that. So if she's open to doing more than just club sponsor, I can definitely help her with that. But even if it's just club sponsor, if she's willing to travel for maybe 1 or 2 meetings to help start a new club, I can go ahead and probably get her set up to that. We have a plethora of new clubs forming as well. Unfortunately, not in the Huntington-Charleston area, but we're working on that. But we can definitely.
Retired, so I think she could probably handle if she didn't have to be there, every meeting or even once a month. I'm sure she could handle it.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Don and Billy, this is Brad. I just dialed in a little bit ago, and but I caught this last little bit of conversation. I've actually been reaching out to Julia too. Julie reached out to me to find out, how she gets this last piece done. I've got Paula Riley's also someone who's trying to get her DTM done, is looking to start a club in Ashland, Kentucky. So I've suggested that Julie might be willing to help out with that. And then there's some opportunities between Huntington and Charleston where perhaps a community club might fit as well. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get her hooked up with something that'll work. So
that'd be awesome. That's great news.
Yeah, and Billy, there might be. There's only one club coach assigned to Charleston right now. That's you. We can actually have up to 2. So if you and Julie want to work on that project together, that's another option. That would also complete her last goal for DTM.
Well, now that the club has changed to Tuesday night, she could do this because I offered it to her. I said, look, Julia, you can do this instead of me, because I didn't know we could both do it. And she said, it's Wednesday night. That's church. I can't do it. But we just changed that meeting to Tuesday evening, so she could do it if she wants to.
Yes, so if you want to reach out to her and ask if she wants to sign up to be coached with you, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, and all I need to know is that if she's willing to do it, and the club would accept her, which I don't know why they wouldn't, if she's willing to help. And then I'll officially assign her as that second club coach. That's a wonderful idea. And with all these open houses that you're doing out there, you may be able to get a successful club coach credit here very quickly. So that would be awesome.
I think so. I mean, we had 7 people. Every one of them was interested. Brad, you don't know that there was an attorney that didn't make it, that he said he and his son both wanted to join, and could someone please call him and talk to him today? So I sent him my contact. He hasn't called me, but told him to call me at his convenience.
Oh, that's marvelous. That's 9.
Somebody didn't even show.
That was a good poll.
That's great. Well, you've done a great job with that marketing. I tell you.
Here's what I think we accomplished with that. I don't know that Charleston knew who Toastmasters was, but we had flyers everywhere. We had advertising on different event pages, and a lot of the people that are contacting us and coming to us are telling us, well, my boss told me about Toastmasters. They said it was really good. I needed it, but they didn't know we were here.
Yeah. That is a good message for clubs and club coaches as well. Sometimes you just got to get the word out about these clubs, but not only about the clubs, about Toastmasters and the benefits it brings. So you've done a great job, and it's really a model of what you can do in a given geographic area with successful marketing. So good job on that.
Brad, do you think that doing a restaurant versus at the club was a plus?
I think it's a plus for getting people through the door. I think we could still do elements of a club meeting to show them exactly what they get, rather than just here's what it is and then a mix and mingle answer questions. We could have a speaker, we could have an evaluator, we could have 3 or 4 table topics at the restaurant, and that's a great restaurant to pick because it's right downtown, and the food and everything was excellent. I know it was a little spendy, so we'd want to think that through a little bit more, but it's a great place to be because it's easy for everybody to get to who works downtown. So.
Well, I would have loved to have done that type of scenario, but I could not get my other club to actually involve themselves until the very last minute. Thankfully, they were there. They were the bodies we needed and the experience we needed, but they were not getting involved Aubrey did 90% of what was done herself.
Yeah. Well, maybe if we just plan on doing it every quarter.
Yeah.
Make it a habit.
Well, that was kind of expensive. We're going to have to figure out how to do it a lot cheaper.
Yeah. We could do it at the church,
Oh, I think we could. Yeah, I think that would it would cost us $50 if we did it there.
At the church?
Yeah. If we use if we do an event with a meal, we have to use the kitchen and stuff and clean up, and so we have to pay $50 to do it.
Better than what we had last night. Wasn't that about 200?
400.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, church it is. I'm sorry, we shouldn't sidetrack the the coaching call. Sorry about that, Don.
That's okay. No, and what I wanted to make sure we're careful with is if we want to assign Julia, we need to sign her up pretty quickly because Charleston is at 10 members, and let's say that you get 4 or 5 new members. We have to assign Julia before they get above 12 members because once the club hits 13, you're no longer eligible for a second club coach. So
I will call her right after this call then to see if she wants to do that. So
so the timing is very important there because once you start adding members, then it's too late. So I just wanted to remind. And the other thing is you can be already a member of the club to be their club coach. So if you join, and actually we don't recommend that you club after becoming a club coach, but it's okay if you do. Don't get me wrong. But but you can't do it until after you're officially assigned as a club coach.
Right.
So let's go to the next slide in developing the action plan if we can. So one of the things that we've done is identify the list of area and division directors, their assistants. We've gotten the word out about the DTM and two, but Billy, you made a good point. I don't know if the word's gotten out enough, or there's been some churn with it a little bit because with Pathways, some people have given up on the old education program have gone solely into the new one. So we've had a little bit of churn with that a little bit. One of the things that we are trying to use now is the opportunity board. It's part of our D40 website that lists potential opportunities. Um, we've struggled a little bit about that because even though it's out there, we're not getting a lot of usage out of it. So that's one of the things that we've been talking about is a new campaign plan for the opportunity board. And then the other thing is we were trying to let people know how to find out when a club is eligible for a coach. And you can check that on the dashboard if you go to the reports to.toastmasters.org. Also, it lists the number of clubs who do have the club coaches, etc. And then also, one of the things we've been working on is Lisa Lee, a distinguished Toastmaster out in the Columbus area. She's now our club advocacy chair. And what she does is she actually identifies clubs that are between 13 and 19 members and assigns a club advocate for that club. That club advocate doesn't get credit as a role for their DTM. It's not one of the official three positions. But what we do is we do provide incentives for that club advocate, and that person can be a club advocate even though they're already a member of that club. So, and what we do is once the person becomes a club advocate, Lisa sends them out information on tips and tricks to help with open house, and we provide that support to get that club back up to 20 members or charter strength. And the theory behind this is if we can stop the bleeding and target the clubs when they're between 13 and 19 and help with their membership drives, help with their membership efforts, and prevent them from slipping down to the 12 and below, then we won't need as many club coaches in the future. So a little bit of a ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure is concept on that. And then also, I know, Scott, you created a flowchart to help with that for the opportunity board, and then
Yes.
also a coach support group. So that we're trying to encourage each division to have a coach team or coach group that can help identify potential club coaches and also work with the clubs to help with the communication with that. So, Scott, you want to?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
I really want to. Yeah, I know. I hear Brad's on, and so I think as a division director, maybe one of the things that you and your fellow peers can do, and maybe you talk about this already, but is to really get a division support group for club coaches, not only for finding the club coaches like we talked about earlier, but also to support the ones that are active. And I think sometimes the coaches kind of feel like they're on an island. They may feel like, hey, I'm all by myself, or I'm not getting much support here. And if we can create like a little support group for them, maybe get a couple of DTMs that might not be working on too many things or anything like that, but to really encourage maybe some DTMs to get together and help reach out to a coach and say, hey, what kind of struggles do you have and how can I help you? And that's
Great.
something that maybe at a division level could be passed down to your area directors or maybe even your division councils, just having that type of a discussion.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Brad, what do you think of that concept? Did you do anything like that when you were a district director or district governor, so to speak, at your previous district?
I know that one of the, let me go back to let me go back 3 districts. District 33, one of the past district governors is a fellow by the name of Jesse Oakley, put together a really great batch of information, a lot of it TI stuff, and then some of the things he collected over the years, and then he stayed in close contact with all of his coaches. I don't know if they were doing conference calls or if they were getting together or how they were doing it exactly, but I actually chatted with him just a little bit about that. So he was really active in that space. District 39, I don't think was doing quite as much as Scott's been trying to accomplish in the last year. So, hats off to you, Scott. But yeah, I think this conference call is a great example of where, hey, we can put things out. We just have to get people to take advantage of them if we can. There's only a few of us on the call, and
Sure.
we all get so busy. So.
Yeah, that's and that's one of the things that I totally understand, and there's priorities sometimes, and just to be tonight. I mean, I was with my son at his banquet, and I didn't know exactly when I was going to get done, so I thought, I got to get Don to help fill in for me, and then I'll come in when I can. So I understand that people, we have to make choices sometimes, and that means that Toastmasters kind of gets put on the shelf, but. I think hopefully there'll be enough of us to be able to, to find the right timing and the right message and the people that can help these coaches out.
And I'm going to take that as my cue, Scott. You were talking about a support group. One thing that I'm finding to be the most interesting about being a coach is the length of the commitment. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get into the details. I think personally, maybe if somebody of your stature or some other district officer that is involved with coaching, I mean, of course, I'm going to try to get my officers to listen into this so they can understand at the board, at the club, why are we doing the things that we're doing. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, part of the challenge that we have is that this club has a very distinct, I would say, target or a specialty. Mm-hmm. But in general terms, it's perhaps letting them see that I come there with perhaps my take, but it's essentially something that has a shape and a structure behind it. I'll never forget the one time there is this one kind of checklist that's available to kind of like, it's a self-assessment on how do you see your club. And half of it I had already gone over, and I know it got them thinking. So how to reiterate if right now we're kind of on the home stretch, I have framed it as an incentive. Do you need a coach? How to avoid having a coach around. Try to motivate them to pick up on a few simple, I would say, changes. I mean, we've done a lot of things. The club is a very, I would say, dynamic club to be in. But of course, we have that net 5 to go over. So again, I thought you were talking about a support group, maybe a visit, maybe invite you over the phone. Since it's so challenging, maybe invite you on something like this. See your faces. By the way, nobody's sharing their cameras. I was looking at the previous webinar Wednesdays, and the faces are there. But again, the bottom line, I agree with your idea about a support group, because it is, out of the 3 ways, as I understand it, to get that the Advanced Leader Silver credit, it is the one that requires the longest commitment of all. So yes, definitely we could use and not just a support group for the coaches, but perhaps a wider arena where you guys could also hear from the officers themselves how they see things are going and how we can come to the middle.
That's great. And I think I just going back to one of your original comments, Francisco, is that you're right. The length of commitment for a coach can vary greatly. It can vary from 1 to 2 months if there's a club that's kind of on the edge, like maybe 12 members, and then they grow rapidly within a couple months, or like you said, somebody that's in a club that's just stuck in a rut. They could be there for almost 2 years, and that is it's a serious commitment. And I think that if you were to look at the average, a lot of we're seeing quite a few coaches now going into their second year of commitment, because that first year they just were unfortunate to not get them to distinguish, so they upped for another year, and now they've they've worked with them, and then who knows how they're going to shape out here in the next couple of months. But I mean, I know there's several people that we assigned in 2016 that are still working with them. So it is a significant investment, or it can be a significant investment. And that's why I think the support group is extremely important.
And it's got to clarify, because again, I hope that they're listening to this. It's not that we're stuck in a rut. It's actually a very vibrant club. Like, for example, on Monday, they allowed me and they helped me. I keep calling it graduation. They allowed me complete the Success Communication series. It was a great event. We had 4 guests, and we had people from the community. They apparently have chosen to really leave it up to people to come back. Whereas, as we all know, in many of the more successful clubs, there is this attitude of a closing and really working the guest packet to get that person to commit, in the glow of the moment. And, we had 4 guests. If I would have been in another club, but I was already tied up, completing the presentation, issuing certificates, and, I hope they listen into this, because at the end of the day, it's why we're there. It's a great club, but the numbers are not where they should be. How do we get them to see that membership is not? I got another answer from somebody saying, oh, the membership drive is in May, and I'm going like, no, the membership drive is through the whole year. We have 3 different ways of approaching it. So those little things, how can they hear it from somebody else? That's what I'm trying to head into. Because they're a great club, but numbers are not okay.
Yeah,
hey guys,
there's a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Don, I guess.
Let's move on a little bit, because I do want to cover a couple additional things here towards the end, and I want to respect everybody's time here. But if it's okay, if we have time at the end, let's kind of delve into that a little bit deeper.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll do that.
I sent you an email with a couple of additional attachments that I wanted to cover. One's the brochure itself for the club coach that we can use for marketing. Another one is a club coach troubleshooting guide. And then there's a third one, which is an FAQ on club coaching. And that's something, I want to make sure we get out to everybody. But if we can go ahead and show that to everybody here shortly, that'd be great.
Yeah, I've got the flyer up now. This is Scott. I'm sharing my screen. So I've got those things I think that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
You can share one by one here if you'd like. Can you see my screen?
So here's an example of the club coach program flyer. And it has basic information, etc., about that program. And it's a good way just to get the word out if somebody wants to consider being a club coach and just have basic questions. This is a good flyer to advertise. And it's useful for not only the club coach, but also for the club itself, as far as the regulations, but also the recognition part of being a club coach. Go ahead and pull up the FAQ one then, if you had that one.
I think I've got here. I don't have the FAQ right off the top. Maybe I can look at that, get that in the background. But I've got the troubleshooting guide here, if you'd like.
Okay.
I think this is something that Francisco may have mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah, that was an eye opener for everybody when I brought it, because it's not just me. It's international, pointing things out that we need to be perhaps very sincere about.
Right. So
these are kind of the moments of truth in a sense. Yeah.
Exactly. It really is. It's like the moments of truth, but in a troubleshooting guide layout for the club coach.
Right.
It goes into the areas such as whether the members themselves want the club to be successful. What a fundamental or foundational question that a club coach should be looking at there. And then also, members are willing to work together to solve the club's problems. And again, these are pretty serious questions that a club coach needs to determine whether those specific areas need to be addressed. Just go ahead. I won't read all of them, but if you could page down a little bit.
Sure.
There's a couple of more the meeting etiquette, that the meetings begin and end on time.
Right.
There's like meetings are fun and are engaging. The location is convenient. There's members are expected to speak from manuals, which that's a little outdated when we get to pathways, but still the same concept there.
Here's the second page here. Yeah. So there's a couple pages that the coach can use to assess, where they're at.
Yeah, there are guests at most meetings. That one's another indication whether the marketing is working or is the club getting the word out about their club. That's
Correct.
one there. Club officers thoroughly understand their roles and responsibilities. That's a big issue sometimes if the club officers are assuming somebody else is doing something and things get dropped, or they're double working certain things as well, duplicating efforts, which is neither of those situations are good. But so
Billy, what's really good, what's really good is they've got suggested corrective actions in here too.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah. So really, we do provide the A through Z of the most common issues clubs have where they need a club coach to begin with, and some of the corrective actions that club coaches can take. But what I find is what I recommend for club coaches as they first work with the clubs, and Brad, you could probably attest to this also, how important it is first to seek to understand and then to be understood. It never works if a club coach comes in the first meeting and says, well, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, where the club would respond back, well, you haven't even experienced any time with us yet. You haven't got to know our culture. You haven't really got to experience the typical meetings. One meeting is maybe not even indicative of the overall normal experience of the club, for example. So you got to be a little bit careful with that. And Brad, have you experienced that in your past roles as leaders of being a little bit too aggressive sometimes?
It happens too often. Yeah, they think, oh, I'm a coach, I must know everything, and they go in there with this, and this, and that's their agenda, not paying attention to what the club's unique situation is. As a coach, I tell them go in there and just observe a couple, 3 meetings. You're not going to fix it overnight, so don't go in there with your guns blazing. Learn it, get an idea what the culture is, and then help them figure out a way to reach people in their community that would really work out well with that culture.
Right.
Well, for whatever it's worth, and again, not to take up everybody's time, and hopefully for Scott and somebody else to maybe come back and give us a hand, because there is somebody that wants to do something like what we're doing at this club, and the key word is culture. I'm literally talking about language. So, Mike McCoy, I think he's about to spend time, the diversity chair, with us. And so Don and Scott, if we can perhaps talk about it offline, that'll be great. Thank you.
Sure. So Scott, you want to take it from here? I know you're showing your screen. Do you want to go ahead and cover a couple of things? Go ahead.
Actually, there was a couple of things here. I think what you were trying to look at was maybe some FAQs. There's actually a
fourth on the left.
See there, club coach. Yeah. So there's a club coach FAQ. Just actually, all I did was literally use the Toastmasters website. I typed in FAQ, and then it's got all those FAQs. So this is the club coach FAQ that Don was talking about, and it's got some really good additional resources in here to help club coaches to, assess their clubs and maybe even, develop a strategy to either approach the club officers with, or to provide that guidance to the club officers to have them take some action if needed. So just really good opportunity. There's a lot of really good resources on Toastmasters International. So I just wanted to at least show that club coach FAQ there.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
And one of the things I think, as far as I'm concerned, is I think, Billy and Brad, I think you're the only ones, at least that I see online. I'm not sure if there's anybody else that's on the phone, but you guys are really here for the actual people who are doing the coaching. And so I'm not sure if this is really relevant to you, this basic process, but I mean, because Billy, you're already a coach, and there's some other good things in here. This Club Coach Weekly is a really practical blog site. It's a little bit outdated, but the thing is, it's not outdated in terms of the principles of being a club coach, but it's a little. I mean, this is made back in 2012, but there's some really, really good nuggets of information in here because principles never die, and it's really, really good that to follow some of these here. So I guess without me just kind of spouting my thoughts here, maybe Billy, in your experience, what are, I guess, some things that you would like to, voice to us of what the district can do to help you as a club coach? I know I've created my ideas, but I'd like to hear what your ideas are.
Well, I'm guessing maybe it's not ideal that I joined the club and became their VPE immediately. But
that's probably a pretty good lesson, huh?
Well, no, I personally don't see it as a bad thing. I think it's exactly what they needed. I asked the president how I could help her, what she needed from me the most. And she said if I could take over that role, that would help her tremendously.
Yeah, and Billy, don't take where I said that as a bad thing that you've done that, or that if the requirement is there that you did it is great. I think what we found in other cases are people joining just to get a number. And if they're joining just to add a membership number, then that's not a good thing. But if you're actively going to attend, be involved, and you've actually gone above the bar there by becoming an officer as well, those are great. That's golden. So don't take my comment wrong about that. But what we try to discourage is people joining just to get to a number. Let's just say it that way.
Because I have on occasion, said, okay, now I need to put on my coaching hat at the end of the meeting because, here's some things I think, some housekeeping that maybe we should look at. And we've just discussed the best way to handle it just from my observation of it was kind of interesting at this club because we were meeting at the library. People would be in the middle of speeches and brand new people would walk in and start asking questions while someone was speaking. And I said, we got to find a way we're just a few of us here, but somebody needs to get up and greet that person and quietly get them seated and kind of keep it from it was really hard on the speaker.
That's interesting, though. It's kind of a unique challenge. I've never heard that before.
Right now, this club is the only people attending is the president and myself as the vice president, and then we've had 3 brand new members. So everybody coming in is brand new. That's why, I sent Julie the text of, hey, I need another mature Toastmaster. Please come help me.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's great. I apologize that I didn't make that very clear to you. And that's another thing about, aspects of supporting the club coaches in each of the areas and divisions is, it would have been great I guess it's a good timing because this other opportunity with this other person just came up over the past maybe month or two.
Right.
Okay, so that's good. I guess our timing is good then. That we're advising you that you can have a second coach, which makes life really easy. I'll give you an example of there's some great success stories out there, and one of the things I wanted to and I just saw this last night. I went over to Lisa McClellan and Bev Steckert, and they were in a really difficult situation last year, and they were coaching a club here that was just doing really, they were struggling. And Lisa's like, I have no idea how I'm going to get through this. But I want to show you their DCP right now because it's a great, great story here. And I think that they're doing a great job. This is Greater Columbus Toastmasters, and they started at 8. And so the required membership is 13, at least to be distinguished, the possibility of being distinguished. To date, they're at 15. Now, I don't know what's going to happen between now and April 1st, but I'm hoping that they're able to keep at least 2 more, not lose more than 2. And these guys are just doing a great job here. They've already met 5 of their goals. So if they can keep this membership up 15 or greater than 13, they're going to accomplish their goal as being a successful club coach, and they're going to get credit. So my hat's off to them, and look at how many officers they've trained. You see, I mean, that to me just exemplifies some of the things that were, perseverance and just working together. Bev and Lisa working together to really just do a bang up job here with Greater Columbus. So my hat's off to them. I sent them a recognition last night. Just, hey, kudos to you guys. I really hope that you're able to close this out here in this next month on the membership cycle, and then you're home free.
Hey, Scott, what we really need to do is advertise and publicize these success stories, because I think, Billy, you're going to about ready to break through with this club that you're coaching with all this these new members and this marketing efforts that you've had. So I'm pretty sure you're going to also be successful here with yours. So I think we should take some of these success stories and really advertise them, maybe with one of our success times coming out, because a lot of times people think that club coaching is fruitless unless they are really spending, their whole life in club coaching. And I think we need to show some success stories here.
Absolutely, and that's some of the things that I think part of a good HPL, part of being a good leader, is being able to do recognition. And I totally agree with you, Don, that we need to take these success stories like Greater Columbus here, hopefully in the April 1st or April 2nd timeframe, and just make sure that we recognize their work that Lisa and Bev have done over the past year and a half.
Great, yeah.
So just an example, I wanted to at least throw some of these success stories out there, because they do exist. But it is difficult. Club coaching is an extremely difficult assignment, as Francisco mentioned. It can last a long time, and you just maybe I've had some people come up to me in the district. I won't name names, but they've come up to me in the district and they said, Scott, I just don't see a path to be distinguished with this club. And that's really disheartening to hear. And I've tried to encourage, these people to stick with it and, take a look at their statistics and say, hey, if you bring in 4 new people, within the next couple months, and if you just, get a CL here or another to get 2 CLs, here and there, then you're at 5, and there's light at the end of the tunnel here. So I've been really trying to take a look at statistics. If there's a club that's got like 2 or 3 DCPs, and maybe they've got a membership, the possibility with getting a little, maybe getting either 7 or 8, maybe number 8 accomplished, and like I said, maybe even getting a CL or 2 CLs. Those are 2, hopefully, pretty quick and easy points that you can attain. So there is a path.
Okay, that I'm going to tell them to wait until the end, because 2 things, Scott. What I'm seeing on your sample here, this is what somebody once explained to me is the net 5. It's essentially base and require. Okay, because part of the conversation, for example, on Monday, was about, I was thanking them for the opportunity and for offering I was offering the ACG back to the club. There was a little bit of confusion. So again, this is support, and I hope that the officers get to hear it from somebody else, what it takes to really meet the goals and move forward. Because ironically, I am now a member of the club. I've been doing the BPPR role, and the fact is that the club has some great opportunities within the community. They are a respected member, quote unquote, of the community, and it's just amazing possibilities. Trust me, the choice now is like, should I leave my home club and stick with this one where I could do more and learn more? So.
Yep.
Yeah, so I have 928. I didn't know if we wanted to just open it up again for Billy and or Brad to ask any last questions that they have. I want to respect everybody's time. I'm okay with if people want to stay on later and chat. That's great. But I just wanted to make sure we open it up for any final questions or thoughts.
I don't have any more questions. I do think that a big part of what is going to make the difference with the club I'm coaching is the very first thing we did was move from a Wednesday night from 6 to 7 at a library where there was no parking downtown to a Tuesday night, 7 to 8, where there's free parking, well lit, and room for lots of growth.
Great.
That's a difficult. That's got to be a difficult change for some, especially those people that are kind of entrenched on Wednesdays at that particular location. So, hats off to you for making that.
Well, honestly, that wasn't the situation. It's like there aren't any old Toastmasters to deal with. There's a young woman that's been there. She's president because the president moved away. She loves the club and wants to be part of it, but she's barely been in it less than 2 years herself. The other oldest member just told us that she won't be renewing this year, and she had only been there 2 years. She says, I've been here 2 years. I've met my goals. I'm done. So it's kind of me and her steering this ship. And we were both real willing to find a place with good parking because we drive circles trying to find a place to park downtown Charleston.
There you go. And that's why I think Julia would be a great asset to your team. You have so many new people.
Yes. We need somebody that has that knowledge and experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, great. Well, great work.
Thank you, Billy and Brad, for coming and just giving us an opportunity to talk about club coaching and maybe even getting your thoughts and hopefully that will help others in the district.
Yeah. Brad,
if I can toss in a recommendation based on what Scott was talking about earlier, a monthly conference call with all the coaches where they get a couple of minutes to share what they're experiencing and maybe offer ideas or ask questions just to bounce ideas around might not be a bad place to start on building a coaches network.
Yeah, that's great.
I know maybe that's something.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe what we can do, Don, is in the next time I do a club coach, it'll be specifically we'll be inviting just the club coaches from around the area, and maybe we could do that. Or if the divisions aren't capable of doing that, maybe we could do that here in this forum.
Yeah, I think what we want to do is maybe get it out as a meeting invite at least a week in advance, and that way people can plan it. If we can do that, I think we can be more successful about that.
Yep.
Scott, when are you coming back to do this? Because we have some coaches in here, and we can put the invite out.
Yeah, I think the next one probably I would be up on. We're on a rotating schedule here, so I would say that I think we're probably in the mid-May time frame. Or if we wanted to do it sooner, then I'm open to that, but it may have to be on a different night than Wednesday.
Okay. How many coaches do you have assigned right now that are active coaches?
I think there's around 20, give or take.
Okay. Because you'll rarely get more than half. So you could pretty much just pick your night 2 weeks from whenever, start pushing the coaches to log in and just see what happens.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to get people like Lisa and Bev to give their, success stories, if you will, some things that they did, and then we get a mixture of coaches that have probably had good experiences, and maybe some that are kind of in the middle, and then some that are just downright struggling, and just to kind of get everybody on the same page would be great.
Or maybe let me make a confession. I'd like to make a confession. Being a Pathways guide, I've been extremely busy. And so I haven't necessarily paid close attention to the coaching webinars, But when Brad sent me a personal invitation, I thought, oh, that's my guy. I don't want to let him down.
Mm-hmm.
The district, I didn't know if you guys would know if I was there or not, but I figured Brad cared. So that's why I came, Brad.
Well, thank you.
Oh.
I'm glad you did.
That's a good point.
Maybe it takes a division director to kind of push things a little bit. So that's good.
I called it an invitation. I don't like pushing.
It's always an invitation.
Okay.
That's great.
Well, thank you all. I enjoyed our time together here. I hope you all got a little bit of value from it, and always open to suggestions if you can provide those to us.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
you, Don.
everybody.
Bye, Scott.
Care.
Bye.
Appreciate
Bye,
it.
Brad.
Bye.
Bye.